Hi everybody, it's Miss Aiken again, your favorite teacher. Let's hope Mr. Craven doesn't watch this one. Today I'm going to read to you my very favorite book. And I did read this over the summer and Miss Rosenthal shared it with all of the Mating Oaks parents, but just in case you didn't see it, I want to read it again because it's such a good book. And we read Mosquitoes, which was a book about the same characters in the same family, but this is the original Moosetache and where it all came from. So here we go. Moosetache by Margie Palatini. So think about our last story, Mosquitoes, that we read, and see if you can think about what might happen or how he might solve his problems. Ooh, look at all that mess. Moose had a problem. A horrible, hairy, prickly problem. It grew right below his nostrils and just above his upper lip. A moustache. That's a lot of hair. Now, not a few spare hairs or shy little stubble, no mere weak wandering whiskers on the upper lip of this moose. No siree, Moose had a big, bushy, bristly, mighty moustache. But a moustache that was a burly, surly, mangy mess, and it itched a lot. I bet it did. Look at all that hair. Sure, he plucked and he tweezed. He even clipped, snipped, and teased. But his combs were still cowards. They were still afraid. And his brushes rebelled. His scissors simply surrendered. They gave up. He's trying to solve the problem. This doesn't seem like it's working. Moose was in a frizzy tizzy. The moustache was completely crimping his style. He was a great hoofer, but he could barely bop and hip-hop with a moustache going flip-flop. Looks like he's getting all tangled up down here. Poor guy. He was a wonderful chef, but he simply could not flambe his souffle with all of those whiskers in his way. And he was a daring skier, but how could he downhill race with the mighty moustache blowing in his face? Moose had to do something about it. Had to do something, and soon. But what? What do you think he could do with that moustache to help him solve his problem? What could he do? Think about something. Okay, let's see if you're right. After days and days of much serious thought, Moose got an idea. He crossed some hair here, he crossed some hair there, and he tied his moustache around his neck. A moose scarf seemed to be the ideal answer to his problem. It was so simple, so easy, so perfectly perfect. Look, I think maybe he solved his problem. A scarf. Looks nice and cozy. Oh no. But then his moustache got knotted and mangled and horribly tangled, and those hundreds of hairs still prickled and tickled. Worse, Moose could barely take a breath with all that moustache wrapped around his neck. So Moose untied, unwrapped, unknotted, and gulped in some fresh air. I guess it could get pretty hot to be all wrapped up with a scarf all day. Oh, he got another idea. See, he's trying to solve his problems. He parted some hair this way, he parted some hair that way, and he heaped all that moustache on top of his head. Moustachioed antlers seemed to be the ideal answer to his problem. It was so simple, so easy, so perfectly perfect. Until a squadron of squirrels and one very nosy gopher moved right into the Moose Motel. They huddled and hoarded, furrowed in, burrowed out. Needless to say, it became quite crowded up there on Moose's head, and heavy and messy. Look at them up there. Ooh, not for me. I wouldn't want that. and very, very noisy. The squirrely chitting and chatting, squeals and squawks woke Moose every morning before the crack of dawn, and that gopher was giving the moose one hairy headache. Moose needed his sleep. He needed his rest. He needed his privacy. Moustachioed antlers? Nuts, said Moose. So he unparted and unpiled, untwisted and untwined, and said adios to those hairy horns. But now what? What? The miserable moose took hold of a hunk of hair and he wrestled it, then roped it. He tethered it, tamed. Aha! Moose tail. Now that was so simple. That was easy. That was not so perfectly perfect. Look at him. He keeps trying all these ideas and nothing is working. Talk about a dizzy do. Moose didn't know if he was coming or going. Backward, forward, this way, that. He didn't know which end was which. Moose had to bail on the tail. He said, no way. I'm done with this one. Has he tried any of your ideas that you thought maybe were a way to solve this problem? Let's see what he does. And so he thought and thought and thought some more, but no other idea was a worthy winner. Braids were a bother. A moosetache sweater? Too sweltering, too hot. Net? Not. Poor Moose. His problem was truly terrible, unbearable, just downright sad. He felt so alone. He didn't know what else to do. Aww. I would be frustrated too if I tried so many different things and none of my ideas were working. Come on. Then, call it fate, call it destiny. It was probably dumb luck. But one day Moose tripped on his moustache and just had no time to duck. Oomph! Pardon me, they both said as they bumped. Then they blinked. And they stared, and their hearts went thump-a-thump. She was a moose with a bouffant so bodacious, outrageous, well, it was just plain old big. Hair after hair piled higher than high, a skyscraping dew of glorious curls, a tower of swirling twists and twirls. She was simply splendid, stupendous, absolutely superb. Look at this picture. What do you think's going to happen? She has a lot of hair just like he does. Hers looks like it's way better taken care of. Of course, Moose had to ask how she did what she did to get such a do. Miss Moose winked and then whispered, just a little glue. So she helped he fearlessly plunge a hoof into a fat pot of white gooey goop, and carefully, oh so carefully, they glopped and they plopped, they pasted and they pressed, they coaxed and curled every truly unruly wayward whisker. Around and around they tweaked and twirled those horrible hairs until Moose's once mangy mess was now a wondrous winding wave of marvelous moustache. Moose gazed in the mirror and smiled a broad moosey smile. He was so happy, so glad, just giddy with glee. He looked dashing and handsome. Moose gushed, is that really me? Oh, he's finally figured something out that works with the help of somebody else. With not a care for one hair, the moose pair boogied and bopped. They skied downhill, even uphill, and their cooking was hot, hot, hot. So, of course, it wasn't long after that Moose and his moustache and his beautiful bride foxtrotted and tangoed and waltzed down the aisle. Good hair days, bad hair days, they vowed to love and to cherish, and with hearts heaped with love and pots filled with goop, they both sighed, I do, glue, and promised never to part. Aw, so sweet. He found his match. He found something that worked for him. It was so simple, so easy, so perfectly perfect. And it stuck. Look at all those cute little pictures. Okay, so I hope when I was reading this book that you were able to maybe try and figure out some of the ways that Moose could solve his problem and also realize that he learned a lesson that you can never give up. You can never just try one thing and if it doesn't work, just stop. You have to keep on trying other things until you find the thing that works to solve your problem. So until next time, I will see you later. Bye.